Hi everyone! It's been a long time since you've seen my hands, isn't it? I think maybe even the last time you might have seen a glimpse of my wolf tattoo, but hey, surprise, I got another tattoo! It's been a long time, but I'm finally getting around to actually reviewing some of the stuff that has been growing in my review pile. It's gotten big. And we're starting things off with a tablet that I bought mid last year. And it took about 2 months to arrive thanks to lockdowns and shipping fun. But hey, it finally arrived. The Kamvas Pro 16. And I think this is either the 2019 or the 2020 edition. Each new year they add different things to it. But this is one that I wanted to buy to replace my old, gosh, it's actually been so long since I used it that I've forgotten the name. It was something ridiculous. One moment please, caller.
Moments later.
Here it is. It was the Huion GT-156 HD V2, which was basically the very old version of this because it was the same size, similar-ish concept. So I basically have gotten the newer model. But even this is now somewhat of an older model now because they've come up with a new Kamvas Pro 16 and even one that comes in 4K. But hey, I'm always for something getting upgraded and getting better, especially for the affordable price that this one is. So let's unbox this bad boy. Now, as you can imagine, seeing as I got this in like August of last year, I have obviously opened this thing before. So I have used it, so there are a little bit of wear and tear and oldness going on. But I always keep the plastic covering because I just like to know that things are protected. Just have a closer look at this. Like, look at these dents. You don't want these dents in your display. I mean, come on. No one wants that. So I keep it on my tablet at all times whenever I put it back. I will unveil that later. But here is what they include in the box. So you've got the tablet stand, which this is the one that they use for their smaller tablets. So they've got this one for their little baby tablets, but then they've got the more, I would say, robust version that they use for their bigger ones, which is like their 22-inch plus, I think. So this is the version that they get. You pop it out and you slide it into however height you want it. Further away, the lower it is. You pop that out and the tablet sits on that. Sad story, the first time I had this, it actually took me a while to figure out that actually taking this out of that lock wouldn't break it because I was so scared of breaking it. It was just like, oh god, it sounds like I'm breaking it. I mean, listen to this, it doesn't sound exactly friendly. It sounds rough. So someone who had never had a display tablet at the time, kind of skittish, you know? And this was for my first display tablet, that old GT one. But I know better now. And okay, so the rest of the stuff that they include was this thank you for choosing Huion. You got some QR codes, service, email, talk to us if anything shite happens, warranty details. Don't really need it. Never really had a problem. And we have a screen wipe, which is nice. It has been used, don't worry. It's come with a little Huion monogram, covered in cat fur because hey, I have a cat. The tablet stand user manual. This would have been handy with my first. This would have been handy with my first tablet, because you know, struggles. And we have the new pen. This is the Pw507 pen. I think this is their second generation pen that they use for their pen displays. It comes with the tilt recognition. If your program supports it, it'll recognize when you're holding the pen on an angle versus up like that. And I could give you all the specs, like it has 8,192 levels of pressure sensitivity, which doesn't really mean much to me. I mean, it recognizes light pressure, it recognizes heavy pressure. it's a pen and it works really good. And I gotta say, this is better than the original pen that came with the GT tablet. It's a lot more comfortable. It comes with a bit of like squishy padding around it. It sits against your fingers pretty well. But in my experience using it, it tends to create a bit of a funny noise when you press on the display a certain way. I'll probably be able to record it when I get the display out, but it kind of farts. Get some ASMR for ya. Like, it makes that noise when you press on it, but there's a particular noise that it makes only on the display. It's like a farting noise. It only does it sometimes, but of my only critique, it would be that I would find annoying. Everything else about this pen is perfectly fine. And this is the pen holder donut that they also include with replacement nibs. Now, as you can see, I still have all of mine. And this tablet is a year old now. So I think that tells you a pretty good thing about the quality of the nibs. If you weren't planning to upgrade this tablet and have it just for a very long time, I don't think you'd be buying replacement nibs anytime soon. And of course, all displays include a glove. Sometimes even their normal desktop tablets. And they cover 2 fingers rather than the typical 1. I think that's what Wacom uses, is just they cover the 1 finger. But personally, I prefer it when they cover the 2. Especially because I put a lot more pressure on this finger when I use the pen. So I tend to put dents in my fingers. It's not very good. That glove is always a good idea to keep and use whenever you use your display, just to keep it from getting all oily and smudgy, and to keep the drag from happening when you rub your hand across a display. Otherwise you're gonna go and you're gonna end up with like dotty lines. And the last thing in this box, quick start guide and driver, manual locations, and stickers. But hey, quick start guide, pretty important if you're new to a display. Read it. I found out the hard way. Especially the page about setting up the display. You definitely want to read that, because you don't want to stuff up setting up your display and then fret about it. Oh my god, it's not working, I need to get a replacement. Huion, help me. Done that. Embarrassing. Not with this display though. I did it with another tablet recently. A tablet that you guys will be learning about some other time. I'm not exactly sure when I'll do the review for that, because it's only a recent tablet that I've gotten. And with all that put away, that brings us to the last beefiest part, well, the main heart of this unboxing, and that is the tablet itself. Here is our 15.6 inch display. It goes from here to here. That is the area that you will be drawing on. It comes with 6 shortcut keys and a slider bar that you can typically use for zooming in, zooming out, or scrolling. And it comes with a power button at the top and a button down here that I cannot for the life of me remember what it does. But that is that. And as you can see, it is somewhat good at reducing glare. There's only so much a display can do. But as you can see, you can see my window and my tripod. Woo! But yeah. This is the display that you will be getting. Don't you know, straight away as soon as you open it, dust lands on it. This is why I like the plastic. Keep the plastic. It's good for the display. Now, I would show you the cabling as well, which is of course included in the box as well, because you need something to actually connect this to a PC. You can't run it just by itself. But that would require unplugging it from the computer, and I just can't be bothered. Now, it's a 3-in-1 cable. So you have a USB, an HDMI, and a power outlet that comes with different exchangeable heads to fit your region's power source. All that funnels into the one micro USB that plugs into the side of your tablet. Maybe it's this side. Yeah, I think it's that side. So it's important that your laptop or PC has a spare HDMI plug in it so that you're actually able to use this display. It's compatible with Windows and Mac, and there's a bunch of programs other than Photoshop that you can use this tablet with. Some of the other details about this tablet is it's much lighter than the previous generation that I had, which was the GT. Their website says it weighs about 1.35 kg. It's actually not that thick, which is probably where it loses all its weight. The previous one was much beefier. Another thing to note about this display is they have their new etched laminated screen. It's not quite as slick and smooth as a normal monitor would be, so your pen isn't swiping all over the place and not having any tooth to grip onto. It's very subtle, but that is the new system that they use for their displays to keep that kind of distance from their pen to the screen distance really tiny. So where you point the pen and where the pen shows up on the display isn't as off as it might usually be. And I think that's everything I wanted to cover about the display and everything in the box. Now, with that said, it's time to actually go into details about my experience and my overall review about the display. And we'll see if maybe I can get that farting noise to happen. It's not going to do it now that I'm recording. You little shit, you know you're being recorded, so you're not going to make the noise now. Nope, doesn't want to do it. Of course it doesn't.
So, of course, following the rules of my previous reviews, I gotta draw a wolf piece on this pen display as part of my review. Gathered the last review wolf I did was in 2018, while the last wolf in general I did on this channel was in early 2019, with my collaboration with Scribblefix. So... yikes, that's a long time to go without wolf content on this channel. But hey, at least there's the potential for you guys to see a decent show of improvement on screen when it comes to how I make a wolf these days. And today I'm fulfilling a promise to myself to make another piece of my Wolf OC Leaf, Mother Nature's companion and guardian to the forest. Now, just before I dive into my overall review on the Kamvas Pro 16, I just wanted to cover a few more specs that I didn't in my initial unboxing, just for those that are interested in the finer details of the display. First up, this is an HD 1920 by 1080, or rather 16 by 9 ratio, resolution monitor that features a wide 120% sRGB color gamut, which to me is total gibberish but sounds impressive. Personally, I find that with a little calibration, it stacks up well to a standard monitor, but against a fancy 4K HDR monitor, it does seem dull and not as bright in comparison. But the lower brightness could potentially aid in staying off eye strain in the long run, so balancing the scales between good and evil there. And as I mentioned before, it features their anti-glare etch glass lamination that cuts down on the pen parallax. In my experience, the parallax can be almost minuscule or very noticeable depending on how well you have your monitor calibrated. And if, like me, you tend to hold your pen on all sorts of angles against the screen that you didn't calibrate it against. That's when I notice where I'm pointing my pen and where it actually thinks I'm drawing can shift a bit. So before you start drawing, make sure you calibrate the display to suit how you draw. If you don't naturally draw with your pen sitting perfectly perpendicular to the surface, then don't calibrate the monitor by tapping the dots with your pen held in that way. Alrighty, so this time around I'm a bit more experienced with drawing directly on a tablet display compared to my first Huion display review back in 2018. For instance, I had the GT156 HD V2 as you guys know, but I also have a second-hand 2018 iPad Pro that I've used as a digital sketchbook on and off for the past 3 years. I had the old Huion display for about a year before I ended up selling it, as I really struggled with the lack of space I had after everything was set up on my computer desk. Because it was a workstation used by both my partner and I always had to unplug it and box up the display after every use. Adding on to that, reaching around to access my keyboard within the small space was a mini nightmare when I wanted to use controls that were not a part of my program button shortcuts, and I ended up giving up on it and defaulted to my Huion H950p tablet. Also, making the ultimate decision to sell it might have had something to do with all the new upgraded tablets and displays Huion was releasing. My digital artist self was jealous and drooling. I mean, I doubt any desktop pen display will beat the freedom and sensation of drawing on an iPad Pro with a paper-like screen protector whilst lounging around, but it really is up to the personal preference. I know of some high-end artists that still use their desktop tablets as their main digital drawing tool. A pen display is not the ultimate artist status symbol it once seemed to be. Sorry Wacom, but in recent years, Huion and Apple have made some huge strides in leveling the playing field by making quality digital art tools more and more affordable, and I'm here for it. I know, a very ironic thing to say about Apple, making things more affordable for the little guy. In what freaking world? Now, moving on to the subject of pens, you know that farting noise I mentioned during the unboxing that I couldn't replicate because of course it wouldn't while the camera was on? Well, the noise made a reappearance whilst I was working on my review artwork, so I yanked my phone out to quickly record it. See, I'm not losing my mind. Well, okay, that's actually debatable, let's be honest, but at least I wasn't imagining the noise. Really taking a moment to look at it, I think it could be the pen nib that specifically makes the noise. When you press the pen down, there's a minimal amount of depression to the nib, so I think it could be something to do with the mechanism that lets the nib move that is making the noise. Specifically when I have it on a slight angle. Now I'm not sure if this is a case of lucky old me that gets the 1 in a million farting pen, or if it's something that other users have come across, but if you listen to music while you use the tablet, or can zone out really easily, it is definitely able to be ignored. It only happens very rarely as it is. Working with a handful of other Huion pens in the past, I've never come across this side effect before, so I think it could only be an issue with this particular pen model. I'm not 100% sure, I don't have much experience with their full range, but out of the 3 or 4 I've used, this is the only one that's made the noise. Now, after looking through a bunch of comments on my past tablet reviews, there are a few things I want to make sure I cover or reiterate for you guys. So turn those listening ears on for this next part. This pen display will not run independently. It is not an all-in-one system like an iPad Pro that lets you wander off and draw on it remotely. Otherwise known as a pen computer or studio tablet, Huion does make them, but the price is a fair bit chunkier, of course, as is the display size itself. But as the Kamvas Pro 16 is a pen display, it's instead seen as a computer monitor that you can draw directly on, so it needs a computer, Mac, or laptop system to be plugged into as well as a power source. So make sure you have the required sockets to spare. There are 2 buttons on the pen alone, but there are also 6 buttons and a slider on the display itself. All the buttons are programmable to make the shortcuts of your choice. So while the pen doesn't have an eraser feature on the end like a Wacom pen does, you can always set an eraser toggle on a pen or a tablet button. And yes, I definitely say this tablet is 100% worth the price. It is one of the more affordable brands in the market today, but strives to give you as much bang for your buck as possible, unlike most never heard of it budget tablet brands. If you want the equivalent size display in the form of a Wacom Cintiq, be prepared to fork up upwards of at least 650 USD. Or for someone like me who lives in New Zealand, you better be prepared to pay at least a solid 1000 NZD. Yeah, ouchie and kiwi. This is a good standard size tablet. Gathered, if you have a tiny workspace, there are the smaller 12 and 13 inch Kamvas Pro models to choose from. They have basically all the same features, just on a smaller scale, so while I haven't used those sizes myself, I can say that after using a 10.5 inch iPad Pro, you'd be surprised how easily you can adjust to most tablet or display sizes. Get what best suits your setup. Small space, get a small tablet. Huion products are more entry-level friendly in price, so if you or someone you know is eager to dive into making digital art, you honestly can't go wrong with a Huion. This coming from an artist that has used the obscure tablet brands, a Wacom Intuos back in my early days, and has now been working on Huion products for the past 3 years without any faults. The only reason I have new tablets is because of the magpie effect I mentioned earlier on in the video. You know, the ooh, shiny and new, I want it part of my artist brain that kicks in. Heads up that you want to remove any other tablet drivers from your computer so that you can lower the chances of coming across any bugs whilst installing your new display drivers. The latest tablet drivers should be available on the Huion website under their support tab on the download page. If you're unsure of the order you should set up your new display in, check the guide that I showed you in the unboxing. If you have followed all the instructions to the letter and things are still acting fruity after everything has been set up, then you have my permission to wig out. Majority of the time, Google and YouTube will be the best places to look for troubleshooting, so don't rip your hair out before you've seen if anyone else has found a fix to your problem. There are enough digital artists out there that no doubt someone has come across the same issue as you at one stage or another. I'm also here to help in the comments below where I can. I'm not that much of a tech guru, but I've had to wrestle to make enough displays and tablets in my lifetime work to be able to help with most issues. Majority of which can be solved by never updating Adobe Photoshop from the 2018 Creative Cloud Edition. Yeah. No thanks, I will update every other Adobe program except for Photoshop because drivers and Windows Update compatibility issues are a bitch to fix. To sum up, I think this pen display was a great improvement over the last Huion one I had, thanks to their new screen lamination feature and lighter build. Also, the pen is now battery free, and that has been their standard for a fairly long time now. I kinda wish that they had a tablet stand for this and smaller models that was more along the lines of the adjustable desk stand used for their bigger models, because I prefer working on a monitor that is as close to fully upright as I can get, and the 14 to 55 degree angle just doesn't cut it for me, especially as someone that has a room light almost directly above my head. The lower angles just aren't viable under that kind of lighting. The anti-glare lamination does what it can, but you gotta help it along the way. Think of it like working on a canvas held up by an easel versus a sketchbook lying flat on your desk. I personally prefer the easel method. I think I might get a tablet arm mount one day, but it's not the most straightforward thing to get for this model, as VESA holes that are key to mountability are only added to a selection of their bigger models. Huion sells an official display holder arm, but if you go to the bottom of the product page, you'll see it isn't compatible with the Kamvas Pro 16. So if you want this display on any kind of adjustable arm mount, you also have to buy a separate converter that cradles the tablet, kind of like a hands-free car phone holder would. But overall, besides a few nitpicks to do with my personal preferences, I love this display and have enjoyed using it this past year. I hope this review helped make the decision-making process a little easier for you. I've left links to purchase your own Huion Kamvas Pro 12, 13, and 16 in the description below, which by using you help out my channel and me if you do end up buying one. If there's anything I missed that you guys would like me to better clarify, please feel free to leave a comment below with any questions. I'm here to help if I can. Thanks for watching everyone. If you liked this video, be sure to tap that like button, share it, or leave a comment below. If you have a couple coins to spare, please consider pledging to my Patreon, which directly funds my channel and art projects in exchange for a range of exclusive rewards. Every little bit helps, and anything is greatly appreciated. Until next time, see ya!